All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the November 12th CHAOSS University group meeting. I know I was telling Chris, a couple of people are out today, traveling or kind of dealing with some family things. So all good. Thank you for being here today. I'll put the minutes in the chat. I do have them for you. And I'll share my screen as well. So today's most compelling question is, can you do anything? Like a Rubik's Cube or or juggle or anything like that. And I can juggle 3. That's it. Like as soon as if I was to add a 4th, I don't think I can. And I can't solve a Rubik's Cube. Well, playing the violin, Iris, that's like that's way beyond me and
That's the
juggling.
hobby.
So yes, you take home the cake today. That's excellent. I'm impressed. All right, David, maybe when we see each other, we can figure out how to juggle together. So is this, Chris, is this more of a, it doesn't sound like a passing thing. Would it?
What? Oh, I just, at a young age, my dad and I, fishing and whatnot, we would whittle wood. So,
I love it. I think that's something that I stopped doing, like, right, like you're saying, like with my dad a long time ago.
yeah,
It's
no, still, yeah.
very peaceful.
One of these random things.
I know, that was kind of the question of the day, like random things that any of us can do that aren't, work related or something like that. So I like it.
If I ever retire, I'll go back to working with wood. Nothing to do with computers.
Exactly. Actually, I have a basement where I work on old bicycles. Sometimes I need these like physical things that are not any,
Yeah.
I'm not in front of a screen, nothing to do with computers. 100%. So today I just wanted to kind of get your feedback on the potential of, I'm thinking a relatively short opinion piece on the work that you all are doing and kind of bringing that out into the light for other people who may not be thinking about university OSPOs. And so I was saying to Chris, there are a number of different places that we could think of, but IEEE Computer has a column. It's like a column for open source work, and they're relatively short pieces, 2,000 words, which is just not that much. But the audience is pretty big on that, so at least my initial thought was something short and relatively quick that a lot of people could potentially see. So I don't know, at least in terms of an outlet, if people have thoughts on that. Reasonable.
Sounds like a great idea.
Okay.
As me being in the process.
Okay, great. Yeah, and we can take, I think 2,000 words doesn't seem, between like with David and Claire as well, and Stephanie, like with 7 of us or 8 of us, like it shouldn't be that hard to get this information out. Yeah, Chris.
Well, I'm just wondering. So I do read, stuff from IEEE, but like, you think, is it like a community that is familiar with OSPOs, or you think there still needs to be like some
That's a good.
outreach and engagement on that front? And just wondering too, like, as far as venues go, right? Like, do you think that they would know what it is and be like, oh yeah, like it's important to,
Dirk would know what it is,
yeah.
the column editor. So in terms of like the audience, that's a good question. I mean, the thought was I did this 5-minute rudimentary structure. but it was something along these lines. So I mean, I think we'd have to kind of get people to understand what it is. I don't think the corporate OSPO is that vague of a concept anymore. Like, and even if it is a vague concept, I think it's pretty easy to get across at this point, like an operational center in a company that deals with the inflows and outflows of open source from the company, kind of regulating that boundary. I mean, it's a good question. I don't have a great answer for you with IEEE computer and whether or not that's absolutely the right place. But I do know that they take these kind of short pieces. Hi, Stephanie.
Sorry, I'm late.
You're fine. So Stephanie, you joined at a good time. So we're talking about the potential of writing a short piece on university OSPOs, like kind of the challenges and pitfalls, and that's at least the structure that's in my mind. I was thinking kind of a non-empirical piece, like where we don't have to get a lot of data. It's more driven by the work that y'all have been doing, just speaking from the heart. And the one venue that I had kind of come across was IEEE Computer. They have those columns that are like 2,000 words. Do you know of any other places that?
Well, I mean, like higher. I mean, are we talking about like journal type of?
Yeah, but it would be more
what?
like an opinion piece or a perspective piece. Like no real like method section, no real theoretical framing kind of thing.
I'm thinking of stuff like Journal of Higher Education, whether or not they would have a sort of real like what opinion section. I'm not a big reader of that, but I know that it's one of those
good.
that has an impact. So I'm thinking if we were to do this, having it at in something that's impactful where people can be like, oh, I hadn't heard about this. Oh, these are these things.
That's exactly the hope, as opposed to like having it buried in an academic paper or an academic where nobody sees it.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah, that would be my leaning for that would be somewhere where that a leadership, not usually leadership, but like top faculty or somebody that would be like, oh, I can champion this or something along those lines would be cool.
Okay, cool.
So maybe I would, I'd reach out to who's a faculty that we were. Somebody like Angela might have Angela or Lorena from GW might have a good idea about where to put it. But yeah, I do think it would be I think we're all at this point of now what?
You have a lot to say too.
Yeah.
I think the stories that y'all have would be extremely helpful for universities that are thinking about this. Iris or David, do you have thoughts on outlets?
I think those two sounds reasonable.
Okay.
I'm not very familiar with the journals or the literature yet, but sounds good.
Okay, great. David, good. Okay.
No, I don't know whether even we could aim higher and go to nature. I know they have some kind of opinion as well, but I don't know how easy or difficult it is. But I think that will be more. It will have a more reach because everyone.
That certainly would. Nature or science kind of thing.
Yeah. Aim big.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Thank you for the push, David. I mean, if we're going to think about this, we may as well think big.
There is like whenever we put something out, there's a service called Eureka Alert.
What is it called?
Eureka Alert.
Eureka.
Yeah, Eureka Alert. Eureka Alert. I think they merge it, but it's used by comms folks, right? Like, so whenever you put out some kind of press release or something like that, it basically distributes it out to everyone, and so it's like, gives you a lot of reach, right? Like, basically, alerts the network. Here's like this thing to broadcast out. So it's used by. I don't know if I can find it here, but
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Also the other one to person to bring in would be Patrick Masson from
Oh, sure. This is
EduCause,
open.
because he would
Yeah.
EduCause from Aperio. We were just at EduCause, so I think it might be really useful to link in
I mean, my hope
his
is,
input. What?
my hope is that the author list is like 15 authors.
Yeah.
Like my hope is that we would get input from
Yeah.
pretty much anybody that has interest in this space. You know, that's 100% the hope here. Okay. Well, from the group, it seems like this is a pretty reasonable thing to think about. What is this, Chris?
Oh, it's just what Stephanie mentioned to me. Like, I guess it all, like I guess that's where I was angling with the IEEE thing, this audience, like when she mentioned the Chronicle of High,
Okay.
it reaches like more of the administrators. I know that. I've seen it get passed around. Just like there's another one that the publishers use, Scholarly Kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah, gets passed around by a lot of people. But I don't know. I actually kind of like the IEEE as a venue, because I was thinking about, what maybe like a part of our journey that could be communicated out, like, and I think it hits the audience that might, or it might get the attention of the audience that I hope it gets the attention of.
Exactly. That's the hope, is that
Yeah.
this actually gets in front of people that could make decisions or are thinking about this stuff.
Yeah, so I don't think the IEEE is such a bad idea. Like, it actually has a really broad circulation too, right? Like, this is a big community. So
Mhm. Okay. This is great. And I think at least with the IEEE one, I think we'd at least have a immediate conversation with Dirk, who I keep mentioning. Dirk Real, like he'd at least entertain the idea. Okay. So I mean, I can start writing some of this out. So I'm guessing I'm looking at your thoughts on just like off the top of your head, like structure of what we might want to say in a paper like this. You could look at it two ways. One is what you feel like you need to say, and then the other is what you feel like you would like to read. I had come at it from the former, thinking about all the conversations I've had with folks on this call or at conferences. You all have just so much to say at this point in the work that you're doing. So this is what I had put together, kind of an intro, like, hi, welcome to the paper. A history of OSPOs, I think largely stemming from corporate. I think they were kind of the first movers there, but this build up so like working into universities and then kind of landing it at the university OSPOs. So saying like, what have been your successes? Like, what have you been able to achieve? What impacts have you been able to have? Hi, Claire. It's a good group. And what challenges during that period of time have you kind of run into? Again, just putting it out there. And then kind of what you see as next steps for university OSPOs. Again, maybe text transfers goes up into here, because I know, Stephanie, you're doing a lot in that space. But like, what are your kind of your next thoughts? And then wrapping up the paper. You can all tell me you hate this structure, and I don't care. That's totally fine. And that you want to go a different direction. So I don't mean to guide the conversation to something like this. So please speak openly if you see something a little bit different in your mind. We're writing a paper together, Claire. Yeah, Iris.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking maybe between the first, the history part and why university part, it feels like because we're going from the corporate to the university, would there be like sort of a transition of what are the differences or how universities, maybe even in different areas,
Yes,
or
that's good.
part of the world, can be different?
Great.
Yeah, I like that too. And then because you also set up kind of the value proposition in that discussion early on for why, universities are starting
Here.
to see the need for these. Yeah.
Okay. Oops. Okay. No problem. If I was to ask you, like, what are some of the successes you've had at your OSPOs? Is that the right question to ask? Or what are some of the impacts that
I
you've
think
had?
impact, maybe, yeah. Well, no, you can do it. You can phrase it in both ways. I mean, I think
Okay.
that the impact is the success. I mean, the whole idea of them was to increase impact on.
Okay.
So, I mean, for universities to increase their impact through this. So, yeah. So I think that's a good way of. I mean, I try to be like in my thought process nowadays, especially because we're moving towards like, trying to get some addition, moving towards like the next phase for our system, which is different than our campus OSPO. It is that thing of like, oh, it's not just the one-off events that, oh, we did this or we did that. It's more like, how is it changing? Like, how are you integrating yourself more in? And that's the false. So I want to keep, I would like to try and keep a, like, success is made, like, you want to make it sure that what you're saying is more, the long-term impact versus, oh, like a really good program that we ran type of thing. And that's the only reason why I would make sure impact was on like kind of the more the focus than like one-off events. Because I have plenty of great successful programs, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's making my OSPO effort harder or
Okay.
easier. So
Okay. Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, I think impact a little bit differently, which is obviously it's like one piece of it of thinking like the work that is being done on software at your organization, but it's also about the people too, like and elevating their work, and like it is in sort of the context of research evaluation these days in universities, and elevating sort of the work that goes on there, like in how this work gets credited and is sort of seen as well. And so I don't know, like you kind of can see impact differently in that sense too, right? Like, but it can be related to what's happening in universities right now of sort of looking at research evaluation and assessment too. So
Good. Yeah, Claire.
First of all, many apologies for being late. I got caught up in writing something and forgot the time, so apologies.
It happened. That's good.
Uh,
That's the flow is what we call
yeah,
it.
the flow was good. It was good. It was flowing, but now I'm back here. But just in terms of the scope of this paper, I was just wondering. So,
Yeah.
and this kind of builds on the points that were just made earlier, because of course, what we're experiencing and curious is that there are two things, I suppose. One is that there are people who are engaged in OSPO-like activities that aren't called OSPOs. So are you including them or not? Number one. And number two is just back to Stephanie's point in terms of kind of big impact versus success of programs. I suppose there is, depending on the length of time the initiative has been active, there may be different levels. Like, I guess my point is, if this is a comparison of impact, there might be people who are only, been in place running things for about 6 months versus people who've been doing it for many years. And I'm just wondering how you might, like, how you're going to uh, um like, are you going to include the folks that are just doing it for a small amount of time and the potential smaller impact they may be having, but from a temporal perspective, they may have bigger impact later. So I know they may be smaller projects, but I think it would be important to highlight that as well.
That's great. I like the time component. You were thinking on the time component. So a couple things. One, this is all of us. It's not just my paper. So it's a we. And I was telling Stephanie, like, I'd love to have the author list be 15 people, because I'd love to get the input from everybody. And we just alphabetize authors by last name. This is about getting the word out, less about getting the credit for a publication. But so the time component part is really nice. And I think that kind of using that potentially as scaffolding by saying, listen, if you're kind of in these phases, these might be some things you would look for in terms of impact or success at your university. If you've been at this for a year, some of those early successes might transfer into XYZ, whatever those mid-careers might be. And if you've been doing this for a long time, here's kind of the directionality you want to think of with respect to impact. So I like that. And I think that would be a fairly easy structure to give people. That's my thought. Yeah. Chris.
I know I'm jumping ahead, but
that's okay.
One of the goals, one of the things that I was sort of excited about is this with like this paper idea, and particularly like groups that may not consider themselves OSPOs, is that, you know, I think just to try and lessen this barrier that seems to exist, you know, like that that people, you know, you may be doing this, or you may, you know, be doing some of this related work, you know, and how to sort of engage, because like I guess I put on my library hat here too. Like I used to work in libraries and know that a number of sort of libraries, you know, sort of offer training, best practices on software, but they would never consider themselves an OSPO. And you know, like it's this kind of same, like even in a way, like too, in you know, in what I was talking about before, right? Like of how there's sort of open science initiatives in Sweden and universities, but like, you know, that they're just not thinking about themselves sort of connected to this, you know, and you know, so like that's one thing I was hoping is like maybe there's a sort of connection here that people can feel like they can participate and they're doing these things, you know, and that maybe they can call them OSPOs, or because like I think even to this day, like I wouldn't even label us as an OSPO still, you know, but we do OSPO like things. And that's like the space I live in, right? It's like, what do we call ourselves an OSPO now? Like we're doing OSPO like things, you know, like so like I'm hoping that, you know, maybe this paper inspires people, you know, like that they wouldn't necessarily consider themselves doing this kind of thing, and connecting it maybe to some of the other things that are happening in universities that have momentum too, right? Like you know, the credit piece is one thing I mentioned, which is like we're doing work around Quora, you know, the Coalition for Advancing Research Assessment, and there's a lot of work happening around that, right? And it does involve software, and then, you know, like I don't know. So sorry, just and also the open science movement, right? And FAIR and other things like that. But
I think that's well said. I completely agree. And I think that it's a nice stem from Claire's point about the, do we include OSPO like, or just OSPOs? I mean, the reality is I think a lot of the people who would be on this paper probably have like official OSPOs at their universities, would be my guess. But that doesn't preclude us from saying, here are the things that you can think of at your university.
well, it
even
could
though
be
you may
either
not.
random, you know, like, and if you are like trying to become an OSPO, that's the part I can speak to, you know, which is like, here are
Yeah.
some things that we do that could relate to OSPOs or something like that. You know, maybe that could be a piece too, right? Because again, I don't think we would officially call ourselves an OSPO, but we're working with, you know, projects like that. So
Well, and who, I mean, potentially a paper like this could provide fuel for people who are trying to continue to advance in their university by saying, listen, these are the things we're doing right now, but this paper kind of gives us insight to what we could be doing and why we might want to be doing this work. So I like that conversation a lot. All right, so a few comments here. Section on maybe you're not a when you don't know it. All right. Maybe I'll put that here for future directions. I don't know where to put all this stuff yet. And then I saw Iris had something as well. Maybe we could move a little bit to challenges. By the way, thank you so much for this. This is kind of exactly what I was hoping for, is that y'all have a lot to say because you're doing this on a daily. So this is great. And so Iris, you said some thoughts on the challenges.
Yes, that's actually on a point I was thinking, because our university doesn't have an OSPO yet. So I was thinking if we would like to talk about what if there are universities without OSPOs and the potential lack of success and impact there.
Yep.
And what are the challenges is to set it up.
Yep, I think that's well said. It makes me almost think that listening to this conversation, perhaps the angle isn't towards university OSPO, it's towards like university open source work. And we can say there are these structures that are called OSPOs that are kind of very formalized, but a lot of this work is occurring, like as opposed to us, like the way I had presented it, just kind of positioning us at the OSPO, because I could see how that would be kind of maybe a turnoff for some that says, well, I don't have an OSPO, so maybe this isn't applicable to me. All right, this is good. Yeah, Claire.
Sorry, I was just wondering, is there a place we should be listing already the kind of known references in the space?
Here in this right here.
Yeah.
would love to
So sorry, I missed the link. Would you
Oh, it's in
pop in a
the
link and then no, I missed it because I joined late. So
here.
sorry, apologies, and I'll pop some in.
I'm just giving you a hard time. All right, here are the
Because I'm thinking just as a just to think about the things you can build on. Obviously, there's the OSPO academic OSPO definition that Curious created. There's the Ithaca paper that recently came out, and they talk a little bit about it. There's the EU. They did a public sector paper on public sector OSPOs, and there's 2 academic OSPOs. The ones in Ireland are case studied there. And then I was kind of thinking of Iris's point. That's what prompted me. It's like we did some work in the MOSSE project, which was the open research project in Ireland, where it kind of outlines risks of not having an OSPO kind of thing. So okay. I'll put links to those 4.
If you could put those in here, because that would be super like.
I have a Zotero group for OSPO related references. So why don't I share that and everyone can add their own?
Oh.
Since I figured out how to do groups in Zotero.
Perfect. That sounds great. Are there any other, like, this is gonna, I'll take a first pass at this before we meet again, just to kind of get some of these ideas worked out and see how well they kind of play together. Are there any other like challenges that people want to talk about at all that you've all kind of run into? Was it like, are they challenges with like working with administration to justify? Stephanie, you're already unmuted. Me. So go ahead.
Where you're going with that one.
All
so
right.
I think the biggest challenges we all face, and only a few of us have figured it out, is that, how do we make this a sustainable long-term thing and integrating us into institutions? So I think we can point to a few that are getting close to that. but it's not, I think Claire would agree with it. It's not the vast majority.
Okay.
We're all still kind of soft money trying to figure our shit out.
Yep. Is it like, is the challenge like arguing why this is necessary at the institution? Is it arguing for like a budget line
Yeah.
item?
I
Is
think,
that
well, I think it's hard for me to talk generally because I'm so focused on the UC moment where you're just in a shit show of like funding. So for me, it's just kind of like, yeah, but, you know, like, okay, I get it. I can't give you can't give me a FTE today, you know, or like that type of thing. Like there's like people are getting laid off, whatever. I think that's true in some other universities as well. I think, but I think there may be other intrinsic issues that are involved. Other universities might have a different issue, different problems right now. And ours is very temporal. It just happens to be the time when I need it. So
okay? So the timing was just
yeah,
off.
exactly.
The ebbs and flows are ebbing
Yes.
together. All
Yes.
right. Yeah, Claire.
Yeah, just to comment on that because we're kind of just up to about 28 institutions now that are represented in Curious, and I would say that that funding issue is dependent on the type where the origin, right? So there's folks like Stephanie who've been in play, or you know their OSPOs have been in place for a long time, so they're coming to that idea of the original funding the soft funding has ended and they're transitioning into other funding, or and also there was potential funding at the beginning, but that was that's established. There's a lot of there's quite a few OSPOs who are not at that point. They're still living on the soft funding. They haven't even tried to get the funding yet. So they may be, so that's a different, like, you know, the blocker may be just that they haven't tried yet. And then there's a whole group of other ones which are the arose by any other name, which are like, we were doing the work anyway. Now we've just called ourselves an OSPO, but they've also been funded through different mechanisms. So there are actual people who have been funded now. We've got more and more examples of them, particularly from this group of people who have been doing the work anyway and just now are calling themselves an OSPO.
Okay.
Hey, Claire, the good question I have is like, do you also see of the taking that group out because they're the lucky few that like just went like, hey, this Aswatis and the Marvins of this world, they kind of show up with like, I'm already funded. What like of the rest of us, is there like, do you see a correlation of where the OSPOs sit between between their stability and sustainability?
I mean, okay, so what I would say is if you take, because we don't really have enough, I mean, it's hard with there's not very many data points, but
Yeah.
if you take in that group I was talking about, then I would say that there is a correlation between service-related organizations. So the folks that are, you know, have been put in place because they have been delivering a service that has been recognized and in some cases mandated. That'd be the other thing I would say. So there seems to be a correlation between that idea that someone has said we need something on this and it's my job anyway, and now I'm just building in the open source expertise. Yeah, that would be.
But then the other groups, like, do you see it? Sorry, Chris, I just want to follow up really quick. So do you see, like, for instance, I'm out of my research center. I'm soft money anyway, so I'm just used to having to make my own money. But like, are the libraries like struggling more, like the ones that are in libraries struggling more or less, or is it like just kind of depends?
No, well, no, because you see, we've got, but these are all outliers, right? So both GAHU and CMU got funding, but they were all circled around a pitch by Saeed that did like when he was in GAHU and then in CMU, but like, you know, but we don't have that many more in the libraries.
Right.
So I don't know if there's counterpoints to that, but he's a kind of an outlier, right? Because he
Oh,
whereas
just because, well, our folks are like half are in libraries, so for the system for the UCs, so that's why I'm asking that question, like where I'm trying to point.
But they're relatively new OSPOs in those areas, right? So that's this is the conundrum.
Yeah. No, Claire, tell me the answers to all my problems.
Yeah, I know. We don't have the data points. I'm beginning to realize the importance of data points. I cannot make a correlation. We are not statistically significant in that area.
I know.
Sorry, Chris.
Oh yeah, Chris.
No, I haven't managed a library in a long time now. But I imagine it's still the same. Is that, you know, directors, university librarians have to sort of demonstrate new data related services. And what Claire was saying is like, sometimes in order to sort of have, like have a service, like you have to have something like that's sort of tangible to relate it to. And like when you look at libraries, they run repositories, they do training around data management and those kind of things. And that's why I think like it's pretty brilliant. Like one of the projects we're on that's an OSPO related project is OSPO Radar, which is coming from Software Heritage. And it's a thing. It's a thing, like you can actually, set up with your service, as a service with your, community or library or whatever. And, through that, we've been just sort of talking about what will be delivered, like best practices, information, like leveraging software heritage to search for like sort of what licenses are used on campus and those sort of kind of metrics, kind of things. But I guess I also wanted to sort of back, so like that's one point is like maybe, OSPOs can benefit, or people that may be doing OSPO related things can benefit from a thing like that too, that they can build around, like the repository or, like, because like a lot of libraries do. And Stephanie, like I also worked in the UC. I actually still work in the UCs, so San Diego Supercomputing Center, but did a lot of carpentries work, and that network is pretty strong. And I know those people there too. And like that's something that's sort of they all gravitate around, right? And do have support for it. But the other thing is like, as I was trying to set up my OSPO, or still am, um, is listening to people in industry, and I'm not sure they have it fully settled too. Like I hear a lot of struggles and frustration in the industry side, where it's like usually just one person, and oftentimes they say they just see me as the licensed person, or like the person to check their code for like any IP issues, or like security threats. And they want to do more around like the community aspects, right? And best practices and training. Well, guess what? Libraries do a lot of that work, best practices training. And but like, so I see the struggles on the industry side are actually, much better in some ways, and on the academic side, like, and so, it just comes back to that question of like, you may be doing OSPO things, and you just like, and do you really even need to be, do you need funding to label you as an OSPO? Like, do you need Sloan funding to label you as one? Or, like, can you join the club without that? Or, that's the thing, like, to see if like people can feel like they can participate in all this.
All right. So the conversation that just occurred between Stephanie, Claire, and Chris, I'm not sure. That seemed like a fairly detailed conversation that I'm probably not capturing here. And so, like I'm not in the weeds as much as the two of you are, or the three of you are. So, could somebody summarize that for me in this document? Just like write it really fast, like 2 or 3 sentences. It doesn't even need to be in a section here. Just what were the highlights that you just talked about? So yeah, David.
One thing that related with this conversation of whether some OSPOs know they are OSPOs and some OSPOs don't know they are OSPOs yet, and things like that. I'm thinking on, well, at least from my point of view, the main motivation, one of the main motivation I've seen of calling ourselves an OSPO is the collaboration that may surface from that. And I don't know in which section we can put that there, but how this will enable more cross collaboration between institutions because they have an OSPO. And and I don't have any data points on that either. I don't know whether Claire have more things. I know that, yeah, UC have all these, you see things that are all supposed together, and as I understood, they actually collaborate, or they look at different portions of what their main actions are. But yeah, I think that's the future I would like to see, is that because we have OSPOS, we can enable easily the collaboration across different institutions on open source software.
Got it. I put it at the top. I'm with you. I'm not sure where to put it, but it's here. I think it's a good point.
I don't know. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but hopefully I'm not going down one. But this week, I think I talked to the OECD group too, and this is kind of like their year of supporting research software, and they were like talking to us about case studies in Sweden, and they had no idea about OSPOs, right? Like they didn't know how should they be defined, and but it seems like it's kind of, like they started seeing it as a nice helpful tool. But like in many ways, like from that OECD perspective, it's like, well, how do we sort of identify who's an OSPO, and like has there ever been like anything on like those kind of like points of an OSPO that you can sort of relate to and just say, oh, we do OSPOs, and then maybe like a group at a university or something like that can label it, and then it's easier for us to sort of scan for these things and see like, who else is doing OSPO related things, or like, like the typical thing in universities is like principles, or like recommendations, and then you can say, oh yeah, I do that, and like associate yourself with it. And because I'm not sure that's very clear from the conversation I had with the OECD, that there's anything kind of like that for people at the moment, but it's clear that it's like a helpful tool, but sorry if I'm going down a rabbit hole.
Actually, I think I agree with you. I think this, like David's point, like having these operational centers is kind of what I put in here at a university. It can be super helpful, particularly the way that universities operate. If if you just say there's a person that does something, that usually isn't super helpful to faculty members, say, or that person. But if you have an operational center within a university, some sort of center within a university, that's usually a little bit easier for people to grab onto and think about having a conversation with. So I think that's where you were going with that, and I like it.
Yeah, I mean, here's an example. In libraries, they have libguides. There's like a libguide, and a person that sort of has information on, I suppose, or something,
Exactly. Yep, I think that's very helpful. All right, so thank you, who's ever putting some notes in there as well. And then thanks, Claire. And I have one last thing as we wrap it up, because we're at the time. That was a really great conversation. Claire, don't forget that Zotero reference thing if you happen to put that in. So I'm just gonna copy and paste all of this into chat and have it produce the 2,000 word paper for us, and I'll I'll see you next week. I'll see you in 2 weeks. I'm kidding, of course. This is gonna be the fastest paper writing ever, right? I won't do that. I'll work on this, and I'll bring something back next week that could give us a little bit more structure. But I really appreciate the feedback and the conversation. That was really great. And then actually in 2 weeks is Thanksgiving here in the US, right? Like it's Thanksgiving week. So we won't be meeting in 2 weeks. So it'll be a month until we meet again. I'll get that off the calendar. All right, good. Again, thank you everybody, and have a great day.
Happy Thanksgiving to everyone in the States.
Thank you.
Or anyone who eats turkey at that time of year. Wherever you are.
Bye all.
Or
Thank you.
turkeys.
Woo!
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.